what we're after really is spirit, is lightness. But it's definitely, I mean, children are admirable. You can see a child being light and carefree, but it's not the lightness that we would like. It's basically, children are selfish, basically. So our lightness is more like a compassion. You know? So we're heavy with cares and woes, with responsibilities. Yeah. So we're being pulled down, but from that, there's a lightness that comes off there, like a softness. Like the softness of, imagine a young man who's been laboring all day and he comes home and he's shattered, really exhausted. So that sort of softness, the softness of someone who's just barely got any energy left, yeah. So I'm being pulled down and I'm just giving into that. It's like this, you know, we don't realize it, but the mind is resisting all the time. The mind is resisting the natural. So we just want to stop resisting. And then if you stop resisting, then a lightness will come from your heaviness. It's Taoist, it's an aspect of nature. It has to happen. So when we resist our heaviness, when we resist gravity, we also resist the lightness that gravity can invest us with. So here, just feeling the spine splitting into the legs. So I just want to feel the sinking, not so much as just releasing to gravity, but more like me intending a tentacle out of either side of the sacrum and down the leg. So it's an act of intention. I really have to do something with my spirit to push this limb that maybe has never been woken up before. Something in me has to, you know, so it's like when we were sort of working the ground, when we were sitting down, there has to be that element of like, oh, you're really making an effort, you become really serious. So gravitas, of gravity, gravid. So first and foremost, my mind is intending downwards through the legs. And from that, the reflection is what's happening in the upper body, but it is very much a reflection of something that, so it's the primary intention is in the legs. And then there's a secondary effect, which is what's happening in the upper body. So it's almost like the upper body, what's happening in the upper body is almost like a shadow world, which is what lends it the softness, yeah. Okay, now let's just turn. So let's just start just by turning. But again, just all the time, you've got that pull through you. That's it. As though there's resistance, we have to be able to just imagine the resistance. So you imagine it long enough and eventually there is resistance. So the iceberg, so your body is the tip of the iceberg, and under the ground, there's the rest of the iceberg. Okay. Okay, and now let's just breathe. So first of all, just the normal breathing, so the natural breathing. So breathing in here and then out as you contract the belly. Yeah, so we want a lightness that comes from the heaviness. So the heaviness is like the thirsting, and from that comes a lightness. But also we want a movement that comes from stillness. And so the movement has like a real sort of, that has a gravity to it as well. So it's moving, but it would rather be still. It wants to grind to a halt. So stillness, silence, and solitude. So those are the foundation. And then their opposites are added on. So you're tending to gravitate back to stillness, back to silence, and back to solitude. So just feel as you tighten the dantian that it releases, the area around the dantian can release. So as I pull into the dantian, I have this local tension, but that enables my hips to release. And just feel the two phases. So this is like the round phase. It's becoming round. And then this is the long line. So this is the line coming up or out, the tentacle extending, if you like. And then this is the tentacle shrinking up. So this is like the ring muscle. So the dantian as sphincter, as ring muscle. And then this is the line, this is the ejaculation that comes out, that squirts out. So containing and retaining and forcefully ejecting, something is just whooshing out. So on this phase, we just have to be careful we don't come up. And then on this phase, we just have to be careful that the bum doesn't go back. So I'm trying to pull my tail under to balance the head coming over. Yeah, so the analysts would call this the anal phase because it's the tightening of the anus, of the sphincter. And then this is the urethral phase. So this is like when you let go to have a pee. So, you know, when your pee comes out, it's under great pressure inside in the bladder. So it streams out in a torrent when we were younger. And so now, so this is a real, this is like the fist clenching. And then this is the open, extended hand. So we just want to feel those two phases and get them real. You know, so here I'm really tightening. And then here, I'm really extending, just feeling it in the energy and the mind as well as just in the body. So spirit's involved in both, but it's quite a different spirit. So this is like almost like a wrestling type spirit that doesn't want to let go for fear of losing. And this is the boxing spirit, the spirit that just lashes out. And just remember that one of the main things we're working on is just getting some flexibility into the lumbar spine. So it all hinges on getting the bum in. And that's not just an adjustment here, that's a flattening of the lumbar spine. So a reduction in the lordosis. So most people's lumbar spines are quite inflexible, almost fused. And we're just trying to get it to bend back the other way. So the min meng. So as you tighten the dantian, the min meng really opens up and flares, becomes fiery. Yeah, so this exercise is great for the lumbar spine to get it flexing, and also the squatting down on the floor. So the Min Meng is distributing energy all across your back. And then here it's sucking it all back in. So just feel the spine splitting into the two parts, what's beneath the Min Meng and what's above the Min Meng. So what's above the Min Meng is coming up over my head and it comes back down. And then what's under the Min Meng comes under and comes up. So there's basically a figure of 8 in my torso, with the exit point is the Min Meng and the entry point is like the solar plexus, or around, somewhere down here. And remember, it's the part of the spine beneath the Min Meng that's important. That's the bit we need to work on and wake up. So that's the bit that extends down the legs. So I just have to make sure that when I pull my belly in, I'm not letting my tail come up and stick backwards. Okay, so let's just bring it back to riding horse. And again, just feel like, these sides of the sacrum they just want to reach down and just touch the ground. Like you've got a little hand sticking out here, like the penguin and its feet on the end of its torso. Okay, and now let's just pacing, but just really feeling the delicacy of the front of the foot going down and then clenching with the toes in order to draw yourself into the foot. Just make it as careful as possible. And again, what often happens is when we're being careful, we tend to get increased curvature here because the anxiety brings it all up into our shoulders. So we're trying to just bend this back all the time. So when I connect, I am actually sinking down into the leg. So the action of my foot is pulling me into the leg, but particularly it's pulling this tentacle down into the heel. So I'm pulling. I just have to try and get that negative lordosis in my lower back. Now we're just trying to wake up the feet and the legs really, but particularly the feet, so that they can become really interested and desirous. They desire to connect to the ground. They have a life of their own. Yeah, like the box of chocolates. I mean, we're so capable of putting our mind where our hand is. So as you take that chocolate from the tray, now you're totally with the chocolate and your hand picking it up. So here with the foot, I want my mind to be able to be completely with the foot. as it pulls me into it. And when you wake up the bottom part of the spine, the bit beneath the midline, so this will just happen naturally. So by sort of forcing it with our mind, we're just encouraging the natural to develop. It's very much like foraging energy. You imagine you're sort of, let's just imagine, you know, like a hunter-gatherers, you know, they're two beautiful images, really. So the hunter, obviously, is someone who's just trying to be really small and then just fires something out. So that's very male. So this is more like the gatherer. You imagine those women just bent double all day, just foraging and picking things off the ground and putting them into their... Yeah, so what would they do? They'd reach down, they'd pick something, they'd bring it in and inspect it to see whether it's worth keeping. And if it is, they'd put it in their bag. If not, they'd chuck it away. So that sense that that's what our feet are doing. Our feet are sort of gathering. And then your upper body, your arms, that's more like the hunter. Yeah. So they say, you know, just try and use the legs more like the way you use your arms, and try and use your arms more like the way you use your legs. So we normally use our legs, we're pushing the ground away all the time. So that's how we want to use the arms. So we're firing stuff out of the hands rather than grabbing with them. But it's the feet that are grabbing. Yeah, so just drawing in this feeling that this part of the spine is just cutting under like that. It doesn't have to pull. You don't want it to pull. You don't want the tail itself to curl up, otherwise you'll get problems. Yeah. You just want that, the whole area of the sacrum from the min meng, that just to sort of angle forwards a little bit by bending that part of the back, right? Rather than leaning like this. Just so the ward off, really, the ward off in the spine, this curve, the hollow chest. So it's not just hollow chest, it's also like pulling here. Okay, now let's just do a little bit of that breathing through the small hole. So just breathing in and out. So what we want to feel is that when you really inhibit the breathing by making it difficult for it to come through, to suck the air in, you don't just use the diaphragm, you really use these muscles. So as you suck the air in, you're really tightening the Dan Chen. So you're actually breathing in on this phase. And then when you breathe out, you push, and the belly pushes down and out and forwards. And then here. So this is the reverse breathing. So as I breathe in, I'm really tightening here to help suck down the diaphragm to get the air to come in. So breathing in. Yeah, so when the action is difficult, then we just use the body very differently. And with the breathing, it's like the opposite. So breathing in by pulling here. So I'm sucking that air in. You can really hear it. And now just turning now. So again, just letting these muscles here turn the body. And so we're just really trying to activate this whole lower spine, dantian, minmeng area. So it all starts there. And it's good doing this sitting down, especially if you've got like a chair with a back to it, because then when you turn here, you can actually get your elbow against the chair and really push into it. So you can just imagine that, like you've turned and you've reached a limit here, and you just work into that limit. And the limit then really pushes you into your core. Yeah, so the core tends to be something that we're always coming out of. So what we'd like to do is actually force ourselves into it. That just requires a very different mood to the mood that comes out of it. So, so relaxed. So we're relaxing into the tension. So the tension is not being just let go of, it's being internalized, yeah? So I'm bringing the tension right into my core. And then it becomes almost like a time bomb, you know, and then when you need to fight, you just let it explode. And then what comes out takes you by surprise more than anyone. And so here I'm trying to relax this area and just really pull it into the lower back. I remember John telling me once, you know, back in the early days, he just said, you need to get stronger. I says, well, shall I start doing the weights? Because I, you know, realized that he did and a few of the others. He said, no, you don't understand relaxation enough yet. So it's like from that ground of relaxation, you can then build the right sort of tension. And then that tension really is, it's right in the core. So it begins to feel as though it's the other way around, as though the relaxation is possible because you have this core of tension, this cold steel, yeah. So when we started the weights, he just said, you know, just feel the honesty. Yeah. He says that 10-kilo plate is always going to weigh 10 kilos. It's not going to weigh 8 kilos just because you're a little bit tired. Just feel its honesty. It's always the same. You can rely on it. And it was like, you know, a really valuable instruction. And he said once, he said, if you are feeling tired, never let on, never let the world know. Okay, and now let's just squat down. Yeah, so most people don't like this, but we should have no objection to it because, I mean, the reason they don't like it is because, you know, they don't have the flexibility or whatever, but it's also because, you know, when we're this proximate to the ground, it's difficult to engage yourself in conversation. You can't really talk to yourself. The ground, the proximity of the ground will just naturally drain the mind of its chatter. So we just tend to be more still. We're more of the ground. We are what's beneath our feet. We become like the ground. And that's exactly how we would like to become. So that quote of Jung, you know, the mind is related to the body as the body is related to the earth. Yeah. So we just want to, you know, what's that commonality? What is it that I have in common with the ground beneath my feet? And for most people, there's very little because they're just so active and noisy, anxious. So we just want to really just be able to quieten down and just feel the dantian. And again, just have it pumping all the time. It's like this muscle that's just pulling into itself and then releasing. It's a ring muscle. As it works, it generates spirit and it activates the libido and it gives you access to your unconscious, to the drives and forces that are subterranean. Yeah, so in one sense, you're sort of withdrawing into this center, into the dantian and into your body. But in another sense, you're just emanating energy, especially from the back. So that's the correct heaviness and lightness. Yeah, they're almost in different dimensions. So it's quite easy to sort of miss one of them. And then just placing the hands. You just want to feel that that simple act of just placing the hands on the ground just wakes up something really primal in you. So, because you're now listening to the ground, it's quite interesting here, you know, if the car goes past, you can feel it, the ground vibrate with it. So a lot of Israelis have quite strong voices, and the men have really sort of deep, resonant voices. And you can, you know, if you when you're primed, you can feel it in your spine. It's like you feel the vibration in your spine. Okay, now let's just sit, the legs spread. Yeah, so now we're even closer to the ground, yeah? So just feel the iceberg, feel that part of you that's just under the ground. And then just work, just try and tense these muscles in the thigh to get the leg really straight. Yeah. So I tense the thigh muscle and it stretches the hamstring, and then just reach for the foot. Yeah, so you're just trying to keep the leg as straight as possible, but with tension in the thigh. Yeah, so the more you tense one side of the bone, the more the other side will release. And because we've got bent legs all the time in Tai Chi, the hamstrings tend to get short. They need work. So without stretching, you know, a lot of like tension just accumulates. It's like poisons accumulating in the muscles. You need to sort of really work them and so really contract and then really stretch to flush those toxins out. They're not just toxins in the body, they're toxins in the mind. Yeah, so I'm really tensing here, it's difficult. And then just the other side. So again, I want to tense this muscle in order to tighten the one behind. Feel it really stretching. Yeah, so you're shortening one muscle, but in order to lengthen the other one, the one behind the bone. Yeah, so intention, you know, it's a bit like the muscles really. Yeah, so if you want to intend something forwards like this, you really need to sort of, something needs to tighten inside you in order to make something go forward. So it's a bit like the tube of toothpaste, yeah? So the hand is wrapped around the tube of toothpaste and it squeezes gently and then the toothpaste comes out at the end. So that's the feeling when you intend, it's like something in here squeezes and then a stream of intention oozes out. So it's not levers, so it's not like tightening this muscle in order to extend the hand. It's very much squeezing. And then that's really quite elastic and rubbery and pliable, pliant. And again, just bringing it back to the ground. So when you place your hand, it's meaningful. You don't just place it, you squeeze into the ground a little bit, like you're trying to get under the surface. You're trying to feel under the surface, yeah? And then that pressure that I'm imposing on the ground squeezes back into my core, which is where my power and my strength is coming from for these actions. So they're sort of feeding each other. I'm using the ground as something to drive me into my power. So this is what we're after. So in one sense, the ground is the source of your power, but in another way, you're just using it intelligently and correctly with spirit. And then something in you can just rear up from that. So this is really important. And you just have to give it time. It will seem that, oh shit, nothing's happening. But if you just give it time, just give it a few minutes and just be patient, And don't concentrate too much on it. If the wrong sort of mind, the mind that's analytical or anxious, will tend to inhibit it. It's much more physical. It's like a real physicality. So the mind is quiet, but it's very much involved with the body. It's not a mind that's standing back. So you become the exercise. You become possessed by it. I always think of the prowling tiger. The prowling tiger is that every movement has just got so much power, potency, and meaning, but it's not thinking to itself. Its mind is absolutely present, but not in a thinking capacity. It's attentive and it's intentive. It's tension. It's all tension, but the right sort of tension. And we'd just like our back just to be sort of strong enough, just to be able to almost meditate like this, and just feel it. The lordosis is basically gone. There's just no lordosis now, and so that's just really what we're just trying to get to. And then when you look at it, you realize that. Because everyone always says, oh, sometimes I get it and sometimes I don't. And the reason it goes is because the old you wants to come back in. So you just see it, just see it. Okay, when I get it right, when I feel that real unity within myself, when the legs are just as much part of me as my arms are, then my lower spine is just, it's in the legs. The legs are just part of my spine. And when I lose it, when I come up and start thinking to myself, it's just because I've split here, my spine has come back up and my legs are now something beneath me. These two slaves. Okay, so let's just bring it back to the squat. So the squat will feel easier now. So something in you should just feel so content in this posture. Also, everything just sort of slows down. So in a sense, it's easier to meditate like this because the time seems to pass more quickly. Okay, so let's bring it up. And again, just feel those elastic threads. So, yeah, so you can just feel that, you know, you almost feel like, God, it's so far away, the ground now. And you just want to just sort of just get down again. Okay, so now let's just do a little bit of how we normally start. So just pulling with the leg. So just feeling the full and empty. So the leg that's emptying, it opens up the foot and extends. And then as it sort of reaches the limit of that extension, then it just starts curling in, and it's that takes me into it. So my feet are breathing. Everything is breathing, not necessarily air coming into lungs, but just that alternating A-B movement, and one phase definitely coming from the other. So it really opens, and it just, so the contraction is just like an intensification of the opening. It can't open anymore, so it starts curling in. And then as I come into the heel, it sort of settles and relaxes, and then the other one can start. And again, just aiming for this tail in the leg. When you get it, you can't look at it. You can't be outside looking at it, trying to get it right. You just have to be right in the middle, in the thick of it, just hoping for the best. Whoa. Yeah, so this is just how we move in the form all the time. And then you're being drawn into the leg. If you just push yourself over the leg like this, I never really get in it. And that's when I notice that my knee hurts. Yeah. If I can pull myself down into the leg, I get a lot lower, and the knee just doesn't really take the strain because I've got onto the ground or into the ground. I'm not resting on top of the hip anymore. And it's just really intense. You get really fiery and tired. John always used to say, and the reason people don't get it right is because they just don't have the energy. You know, a normal bourgeois life takes so much out of you. Not just workload, but the anxiety that you're expected to have, the chatter, in order to be a card-holding member of the bourgeoisie. It just depletes you, and you know, it's all you can do in the evening is just sit in front of the telly and just become a zombie. This is why they always say, you know, the best time to do your internal work is in the morning, when your energy is at its best. You wait until later, often it won't get done. And if it does get done, it's not done very well. So, and so I'm really being drawn down. Okay, so let's just finish. Let's bring it back to base. Again, just feeling these tentacles reaching down from your sacrum. Yeah, so if you're properly awake and alert, then it will just happen naturally that alert and subtle came across that, those two words put together in one of those Tai Chi manuals. It's beautiful. So the Tao that can be named is not the true Tao. So the Tao is unnameable. It's unknowable. Yeah, so you know, you only catch sort of like hints and glimpses of something. So it's very much like a presence that you just sort of feel deep down. You can't even say, oh yeah, I feel something. It's just something in you just knows that something is there, some sort of intelligence. And so it's like God. God is the wholly other. So you cannot know it. You cannot know God. Because all you can do is behave as though there is a God. Yeah. Okay, so let's just bring it up. Yeah, so that's sort of relaxing into gravity. So you feel the heaviness, but you also feel that atmospheric pressure, as though you're being squeezed, as though the outside of you is just, almost like you have a python that's wrapped around you and it's just beginning to really squeeze the life out of you. Look, you know, those free divers that go down as far as they can, apparently when they get as deep as they can go, their body is crushed so much, its volume is reduced by a third. So just imagine the feeling of that. You're just, ugh. Yeah. So reality is pulling you down and it's squashing you, it's squeezing you. Yeah, so atmospheric pressure is just trying to drive you inward. Yeah. The earth is trying to pull us downward. It's trying to connect us to the mother. And the heavens are pulling us upwards, trying to connect us to the Father, if you like. So you're being pulled. It's almost like you're being torn to pieces. So we relax into those forces. So we don't relax into self. Yes, that's always the temptation. Okay, so let's finish.